welcome to this week's Work the Left Side. I am joined by the Supersonic Sammy Blue from the island. How are we going, dude? You good?
I'm not too bad. I can't complain. You know, plenty of wrestling recently. October's always a busy month, I think, in the local wrestling scene. So just excited.
Nice. We'll just jump straight in then. Obviously, so I'm using these episodes. I'm trying to get a balance between sort of the older school established guys and the new blood, the next generation kind of thing. So I want to kind of put a bit of eyes on your brand, on yourself kind of thing. So we were talking before I hit record. It's coming up to 3 years since you started training. I'll ask the generic questions first. Why? What made you think, you know what, I'm going to throw myself around a ring, for the most part of the week?
Well, I always loved it growing up. The match that got me into wrestling in the first place, Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair, WrestleMania 24, the retirement match. And I feel like for a lot of people, in terms of like wrestling, they really marvel at like the athleticism. But for me, it's all story. And they told one hell of a story in that match. And it's actually the reason, I don't know if you can see, I got this tattoo, the Shawn Michaels heart recently. If it wasn't for Shawn Michaels, I wouldn't know half the people I know today have done half the things that I've done so far in my 3 years of wrestling. And eternally grateful to both Shawn, Rick, and my granddad for showing me wrestling in the first place.
Nice. Well, yeah, if you're going to have an icon, have a role model, the Heartbreak Kid's not too shabby, to be fair. Upon his return, don't model yourself on the mid-90s, Sean.
Yeah, maybe not that one.
But yeah, totally with you. The emotion, the story. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I like the high flying stuff and everything, but for me, a story's got to have heart. It's got to have emotion. It needs to have a reason to be invested.
Exactly. It's the characters, the dynamic between the two. Like, I didn't know anything about these two guys going in because I was very young, but the hype package, and you can just tell there's a lot of history there. The respect that Rick had for Shawn, and the obviously "I'm sorry, I love you" moment. It's heartbreaking.
It's one of those true. It's a definition of a WrestleMania moment kind of thing. Like you just sort of said, you can watch it on replays. He just told the story perfectly. So that match is what kind of got you interested in wrestling. Obviously, you continue to watch it from sort of there on.
Yeah.
And obviously, you just thought, right, I'm going to give this a crack.
Yeah. When I was younger, I started at NGW down in Hull. I trained under a few different people, but the main one was Kaz Crash for about 2 years. And then that was when I was in secondary school, and there was a certain point where I just stopped doing it. I think I had other stuff going on, but it didn't take away the love I had for it. And then I think it was about a year or so ago that I kind of got back into the space, and now I've been wrestling with, I've been training with Shawn only. I think maybe 4 or 5 months now. I've started about other places training, but now Wrestle Island and GT Ministries. Basically, wherever Shawn goes, that's where I am.
Nice. Obviously, yeah, Shawn only, friend of the show. Known Shawn for a long, long time. He was one of my first guests. Actually, when I sort of decided to do this, he was one of the first names that I was like, right, I want to talk to Shawn. Yeah, amazing, awesome brain for the business. He knows what he's doing. Awesome character, and yeah, probably obviously a very, very good person to to learn from. You mentioned NGW. Obviously, they've kind of hit the ground running again now. They've come back a few months ago. Kaz made his return at the Rumble, which was great because I was a massive fan of the Proven back in the day.
Oh, I didn't even know he returned.
Yeah,
that's new thing. Oh, that's sick.
hopefully he's back for good. I don't know if it's just a one-off kind of thing, but hopefully, he's back and he'll go on a singles run kind of thing. So. How did you find NGW then? Because that's got a really good reputation as far as schools go and promotions go.
Yeah, I've very much enjoyed my time there. I've made friends there. Well, at least one that I've stayed like in contact with like throughout the years, and learning under Kaz was just brilliant. We was the kids group, the junior division, and I think Kaz really cared about us. He even went out of his way to make like a title for us, and whoever was the best trainee of that month had the title and got to take it home and show the parents and see how proud you are of them. Which I had, I think, twice, and it was a great space to really just learn and develop, and it really like eased my time when I came back in at like the age I'm at now. Having that previous knowledge from the 2 years I spent there really helped me when I got back into it. It's like riding a bike in it; you never really forget.
I mean, what made you go to Wrestle Island? Because you're in Leeds, aren't you?
Yeah.
Obviously, Wrestle Island is obviously Birkenhead. It's a few hours that down the motorway. What made you venture off over that way?
It's a trek, but it's definitely a trek that's worth it. Like 4 hours of solid training with Sean is all that I can ask for. And luckily, like we've got transport there, and there's a good group of lads who were there, like Josh Galler, Ethan Walsh, to name a couple who I really am fans of. And then there's Jero Lewis, who is also there training at the minute. But yeah, it's a lovely environment, and even though it takes a little bit of a while to get there, but it's more than worth it.
It's worth it. Obviously, you mentioned Mr. Gala. He's on next week. I've got the pleasure of talking to him next week as well. So I'm kind of trying to shine a little bit of a spotlight on the island, what you guys are doing over there. Because as Sean's told me, you guys are absolutely smashing it, and he's like so proud of you guys, and I think he wants to get eyes on you kind of thing as well. So yeah, this was all obviously Sean put me in contact with you. So just take a minute to appreciate the awesomeness that is Sean, and say thank you. So obviously, I mean, Wrestle Island, because we're in Leeds, not a lot of Yorkshire-based people don't know of Wrestle Island through social medias and stuff like that, but they've probably never experienced a show. I've watched various shows on YouTube thanks to their YouTube channel. It does just look like an amazing community, family, just a good, fun show.
Yeah, definitely. There's only been one show that I've been lucky enough to be on. That was the most recent one where I did a run-in the main event when Sean took on RPD. It was a brilliant time. Everyone was lovely. I'd talking to RPD beforehand. A lovely guy. He's someone who in the future I would love the opportunity to get to wrestle. Same with a lot of the talent down there. Like I already knew Harley from a previous show that I've been on, Harley Hudson, and she was very nice, and everyone's just really welcoming. And I think it's such a great promotion, one of the premier promotions in the UK at the minute.
I definitely agree, and obviously what Pete does is amazing. If anybody's not aware, again, I've been mates with Peter for a long time since the mystery, since the Wrestle Island, the shop. He had a shop that was just wrestling memorabilia. He'd get people in to do autographs and photos, and then he took the plunge and just created this promotion from the ground up. And kudos to Peter for achieving the goal, because he's got a very loyal fan base. The shows that I've seen have just been fun, and he works very closely with the community as well. So I kind of guess while you're involved in all that, you've kind of got that sense of community around you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all about community, especially like the queer community in wrestling. I feel like it's such an important thing to like show off and represent. Because when I was growing up, there wasn't that many of us, and now you see like talents like Effie, and you see even on the local scene like Tyler Adams, becoming Wrestle Island Women's Champion, which is a curious one, but yeah. But yeah, it's just such a important part of the wrestling community, like all tight knit together and helping each other out.
No, definitely. I was going to kind of ask how, because obviously wrestling's come on a hell of a long way over the last several years. It just seems to be a lot more positive and welcoming to people now than it did probably previously. And I know a lot of promotions are sort of trying to not get publicity just because they're doing this, but just to make it fair to everyone, make it like make it diverse, make it so everybody's on equal footing, regardless. And yeah, so do you find it's a more welcoming now as opposed to how it might have been previously?
Most definitely. Like coming back in after like 7 years of not doing it, I didn't know what to expect at all. I didn't know what kind of people I was going to interact with and what kind of experiences I was going to have. But coming straight into it, just being myself, like I was greeted with open arms. And I think as long as anyone's willing to put in the work, it doesn't matter like who you are. And that's what I try to put across with my character. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, like you can do anything you want to do.
Well, that's it. I know you're in Leeds, so both our local promotions, True Grit, they do stuff with Commander Sterling, Priscilla, they've got Kid Bandit over for the previous show. So yeah, just showing that sort of range for audiences and just the range of talent out there. It's like I said, it's just doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter X, Y, or Z. If you can go in the ring, you're more than welcome.
Exactly. That's what I want to put across, and all I want to do is get better. Like that's all I'm striving to do, and that's why I'm with Sean, because in my eyes he's the best of the best, and he's the guy who's going to look out for me and help me improve week to week when I go to his sessions, and all around just a top guy.
Well, like when he messaged me about, because obviously anybody who's watching this knows I've done a lot of work with Pursuit recently, kind of again shining the light on people who people may not know. And yeah, obviously Sean messaged me, sort of says, would you be interested in talking to any? And he called you my boys. He was like, you want to talk to my boys? And I was like, yeah, ask if anybody wants to chat. Tell them to hit me up, kind of thing. But I just like the way that I refer to the whole group as my boys. And it's just like you kind of got this like really pride, you just felt pride in like, yeah, they're my boys. These guys are awesome.
Yeah, initially, because I've worked a couple of shows with him before, like getting to know him fully. Like obviously he's quite a big guy. He's very muscly, and yeah, I found him quite intimidating at first. But once you get to know him, he's absolutely lovely, and I've been like honoured enough to become like quite close with him, because we spend that much of I can't even speak that amount of time together. That much time together that we just naturally become close, and we're both geeky, we're both nerdy. We like comic books and movies and stuff like that, and it's just nice to have someone in the wrestling space who can also bond over all these other stuff, and also someone who wants to get you better and in the best sort of ring shape.
Hey, movies. Obviously, Sean pretty much only watches horror movies.
Most definitely, he's very much a horror buff, which I mean, it's a great genre and one of my favorites.
It is now. It went through a very dry period. But yeah, I remember if I ever watch a horror film or if I ever want any recommendations, hit Sean up and be like, right, what are you recommending? Or just when I watched Terrifier, I was like, dude, tell me you've seen this. It's like, yeah, of course I have. I was like, okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. I was like, have you seen the second one? He's like, no, it's over 90 minutes, so it's off his radar. So it's got to be a horror film and 90 minutes. And
that's what
like, yeah.
Terrifier 2, it being so long.
Like 2 hours and 20 in it. It's like, you seen it?
I have not. No, I've seen the first one and it was very gory. It's like an entertaining film, but the second one, me and my partner was going to have like a watch, and we thought it was going to be like a quick watch because obviously the first one was quite short, and then this one,
yeah, about 88 minutes, I think, or something. It was, yeah,
it
quick.
Was definitely a long movie, so I'm gonna have to find the time. Well, it is spooky season, so should find the time to sit down and watch it.
Halloween night, Bosh. If you don't have any bookings, depending on when Halloween falls, just get yourself cuddled up, nice and warm, snug, some sweets. Yeah, terrified to get it watched. But yeah, so obviously Sean's, you've got all this kind of stuff in common. I've asked this before then of people. It's always interests me when I talk to wrestlers who also appreciate movies to a above average level, or sci-fi stuff, geeky stuff. Like you sort of said, I'm a massive comic book geek, so that shit appeals to me. I'm sat here with a Spider-Man hoodie on, kind of thing. But yeah, I think there's a massive crossover appeal, and it's the storytelling. It's the larger than life characters.
Yeah, it's the sort of underdog heroes, like, as you said, Spider-Man, the ultimate underdog hero that you can so easily get behind because it's so nice and it's always trying to do the right thing. And that's what, like, a lot of stories in pro wrestling are about. It's like there's always a good guy and a bad guy. Why is the bad guy being bad? Because he's always been an ass. And then the good guy is obviously trying to overcome the odds. Maybe they're a smaller guy like me, and then the villain's like a big guy like Sean, for example. And then just trying to overcome the odds and then get the cheer of the crowd for a happy ending.
But yeah, that's it. I mean, wrestling at its core basic is good guy versus bad guy. It's storytelling. Like I said, it's the underdog. I always think wrestling works best when the bad guy's got the belt and it's all about the good guy chasing for the belt.
There's always
There's
always a good chase story. Like I think the most recent one I can think of is Hangman. Just the chase, very riveting storytelling. Like there's this series on YouTube where it's like telling sort of like the whole arc of the story. I could sit down and watch that for hours because it's just so compelling. And I hope one day I can tell stories to the level of that.
And it ran for 2 years as well, which is mental in this day and age of wrestling. Story arc to kind of last and hold people's interest as well for like a 2-year period. I know AEW's got its haters, I know it's got its lovers, but that to me was one of the shining lights for AEW, was they told the story over a 2-year period. Hangman Adam Page was a character that just you got so behind, and yeah, the chase was just amazing. They are guilty of dropping the ball every now and again, but when they do it right, yeah, Page was awesome. And I thoroughly, and again, it's just good storytelling for me, and it's the psychology. So yeah, in the future, man, and obviously you get certain wrestlers who want to do all the flippy stuff. So obviously you're going to be focused more on the psychology side of things, telling stories, and character. I mean, obviously Sammy Blue, what's the character there? Is he kind of, obviously he looks very, you kind of pop. If I saw you on a poster, you get attention, kind of thing. But yeah, so tell us about Sammy Blue, not just yourself.
Well, Sammy Blue, I think as like the best characters, it's sort of an amalgamation of who I am. I'm a bright, flamboyant, colourful person, and that's what I tried to put across in the ring with like a relatively flashy move set, bright ring gear, and just trying to have fun with the crowd because it's all about the audience. Like, if you're not working for them, who are you working for?
Exactly. Obviously your face, you try to get that crowd behind you. You the lovable underdog kind of thing. Have you ever worked heel, or have you always kind of just had that face vibe since you got into wrestling?
So the only time I've worked heel in front of a crowd is at GTM a couple of months ago. I was in a tag match. It was a very different experience, but it was very fun because in the 2 years that I trained at NGW, we all like had different characters, and I was a heel. I had this like royal sort of character, which is very, very unlike me to be fair. But like I liked playing into like the stereotypes. And then when I came back into the space, everyone just saw me as like a natural babyface. And I think with the body type, obviously the hair, and like the sort of just guy who I am representing my community, I think it's sort of the natural fit. But you can also spin it on its head. Maybe he's got too big for his boots. Maybe he's got too much of an ego. That's where this like flamboyant but egotistical side can come in. So that's why I'm trying to create like layers with the character depending on where I am. And if anyone wants to book me as a heel, I'll be more than happy to oblige.
I think that sounds like the evolution of Sammy Blue. Like you say, you're starting off as a face at the minute, you're smashing it, doing this, that, and the other, but you've always got that potential down the road to turn up the ego, to kind of be, oh yeah, look at me, look at awesome, look at everything I've done, and you can start thinking that you're better than. That's what always gets me about wrestling. Just the roads you could go down. You got so many little things you could tweak with your character, or you could do this, or you could do that. Obvious question. Yeah, I know you haven't worked heel that much. What's easier? Is it easier to get people to boo you, or is it easier to get people to cheer you?
I would say it's easier to get people to boo you. I feel like as a face, you either have the crowd behind you or you don't. It's easy to get people to hate you, but it's hard to get people to like you. And depending on what kind of crowd you're working, especially someone like me who's queer, like some people might not obviously agree with like the kind of person that I am, and that's them. But if I'm going out to an audience of people who aren't into that and I'm trying to get them to support me, it's just not going to work. So
But then I would say you don't want to be the token. You don't want to be the bad guy just because of that.
Exactly. It's a hard line, and I think it's indicative of like politics and culture today, which I don't want to get into, but of like depending on where you go, it's like how you perceived sort of thing. Like I know in some places in America, obviously, if I went out, I would be the heel straight away, but it shouldn't be like that. It definitely shouldn't be, but it is what it is at the current point. We can only try and make it better.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'd like to say Leeds, Birkenhead, a majority of areas that I'm aware of, would welcome you as a face and get behind you and cheer you. But to simplify, I suppose the face and the heel side of things is it's very easy to get somebody to boo you, all you've got to do is poke somebody in the eye or do a low blow.
Yeah,
you've automatically getting booed. There's no generic face move that automatically gets you a pop.
Do the clap at the start of a match, maybe something like that. Get the crowd behind.
Even if you did that, though, I think some people would just look at you and be like, "No, it's too vanilla. It's too, what I mean, I don't want to." This guy's applauding himself now. That's automatically made you a heel. It's like, no, he's clapping himself. So, obviously, dream match. Will we ever get to see Sammy Blue versus Sean Only?
Some lucky people already have at Blackheart Wrestling in Leeds. I think it was it's not the last show, the show before. I can't remember the date, but it was their big return show, Blackheart 3. There is footage out there somewhere, but I don't think it's that great. So I don't know if it's getting uploaded or not. But I had a phenomenal time in there with Sean, and it is one of my greatest matches so far. Just it's a pleasure to be in the ring with someone the caliber talent as Sean Only. And I felt the same when I wrestled Martin Kirby not too long ago in about April. Did that pop you?
When I was looking at everything, I didn't forget I was going to bring up at some point, but I was just kind of like, even just thinking about it again, just anytime Kirby gets mentioned, it just blows my mind. I think the guy's so amazing. It's unreal. But yeah, obviously getting to work, against Kirby, that must have been just a massive learning curve.
Massively. I learned so much from that match, and I watched it back. I think it was like yesterday, and I'm just like, yeah, that's the best match I've had. Like, everything about it, like everything was executed perfectly. Like the story was told, there was tension, like the crowd were behind us, like everything was just working. And he's just such a lovely guy, and chatting to him backstage, like it was imparting a lot of knowledge onto me. And even when like we was going through the match, like it was just so helpful. And he's like the kind of talent that I want to be facing, because that's how I'm going to get better.
I was going to say, like, yeah, beforehand or after the match, do you just kind of it sounds weird, but I can't think of any other way to describe it. Just kind of turn into sponge mode. Do you try to absorb as much information as possible, from a guy like that?
Definitely beforehand, because that's where I'm going to be able to use it after. I was just happy I got through it and kept up with the guy. But definitely beforehand, it's like the guy with the amount of experience, like the guys he's worked with, but also like in himself. Like, he's such a great professional wrestler and one of Yorkshire's, I think, best ever. I think is safe to say, hands down. So having the pleasure to work with him, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to work him again and have a great time.
That's it, man. Fingers crossed, because he's definitely one of those guys that should be on anybody's list, for potential guys just to work with, because it just elevates you tenfold. You can't kind of get that experience. As great as classes are, as great as teachers are, there's only certain things you learn in ring, I would presume. Obviously, I'm talking like as a fan, but just from life experience, when you're doing things, you learn by doing, you learn by experience, and you can't put a price on that kind of experience.
Yeah, working Martin and working Sean are the two biggest pleasures of my career thus far, and hopefully, especially Sean, just because we're so close and we have that sort of bond. I'd love to work him again and have like a proper like feud or story with him, because I feel like we could make magic there.
You could have your WrestleMania moment. You could be the guy to retire Sean, and you could say "I love you," and then just kick his head off.
I'm not sure it will be ready to leave this year.
10 years or something, we'll give it a chance. Sean's still good. He's got a few years left. It's okay. But yeah, like Kirby, Sean, Blackout. It's on my radar, but it's not one that a lot of people sort of know about, especially in Leeds. Obviously, Leeds primarily people know about Rise, True Grit, Tied Up on the outskirts, Planet Wrestle. But yeah, Blackout. That's a promotion that's kind of very under the radar at the minute, but I think it should be popping up a lot more. How did you find working for Blackout?
It's one of the best locker rooms that I've been with. Everyone's so friendly. They always put on great shows, and some of the talent there is absolutely impeccable. There's so many names, like Billy O'Keefe is the main one for me, who I want to wrestle on a show, whether that's at Blackheart or anywhere else, just because I genuinely do see him as the future, and I've been lucky enough to have a training match with him, and I could keep up with him, so hopefully we can do that when the lights are shining and the crowd's cheering. Yeah, he's just such a phenomenal talent. He's getting out there, and I think he should be proud of himself for the work that he's putting in.
And I think I know Wrestle Island, you're training the other side of the hills kind of thing, but you're Leeds based, you're Leeds. You're living in Leeds. I just think the Yorkshire wrestling scene at the minute is very versatile. It's it's just pop huge. So once you get that momentum going, the possibilities for you, dude, are just like you could be getting like so many promotions, knocking on your door, kind of thing.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope that obviously after I put some more time in training, have some more like opponents who are like of the caliber of Sean, of the caliber of Martin, that hopefully these promotions come calling and I'm able to work these sort of guys more often, because it is an absolute pleasure whenever I get to do it.
So obviously Yorkshire, training in Lancashire, is there kind of like, obviously Wrestle Island kind of closely associated with, I know they've got a really good relationship with TNT. Jay and Peter get on quite well, or they used to, as far as I know. And there's always they'd always run buses from Ireland to TNT shows. Obviously TNT's got to be on your radar. Do you get to many of their shows? Is there anybody on those shows you kind of like the look of and think I could have a decent match with?
I haven't had the chance yet to check out one of their shows like in person, but there's definitely a lot of talent there that I definitely do want to work. I think obviously the guy who is like, especially like in Yorkshire, but also he's been getting out to TNT and even Impact now, is Leon Slater, and he's a guy who I'm very much envious of. in terms of like his raw ability and athleticism, just talent, like how impressive he is at such a young age. And I've been lucky enough to meet him. We've had a chat a couple of times, and he's always been super nice, and I think he just deserves the world. I would love to work Harley. I think she's a great talent. The few times I've been able to meet her, and I've been on a couple of shows with her, love to work her. I know Effie has come over to TNT a few times. He's definitely bucket list, because I feel like he is the peak of queer wrestling, in my humble opinion. It would just be very much a goal to get to that point where I'm trusted enough to work someone of the caliber of him, and he's doing absolutely bits over, obviously at TNT, but in America as well, working the various indies over there.
Yeah, definitely a name to keep an eye on if people aren't aware of him. He's definitely sort of just absolutely, just tearing it up kind of thing. But I think that speaks volumes. Obviously, I kind of big up the Yorkshire scene, but I think the scene over, because it's not just Wrestle Island. You've got TNT, you've got GPW over that way. She's over there. I just don't. It's not even Yorkshire or Lancashire. I just think British wrestling as a whole is absolutely smashing it at the minute. And obviously, you're part of that. Obviously, everybody's got these things. So I'm trying to lost my train of thought there. But obviously, get yourself established at Wrestle Island. That's got to be priority. That's kind of like your home. You get your reputation from Ireland. Like you said, you was on the last show, quick run in. I would hope to see Sammy Blue getting more regular matches going forward at the island.
I would love that opportunity if Pete and Jody would be so kind to have me in a match on a show, whether it be pre-show or main. I'm happy to do whatever they want me to do in terms of matches. It would just be an honour to be trusted enough to be on a show with the level of talent that they have. And in a small way, it would kind of be like a prove yourself moment in terms of like, I've been able to get on the show with these kind of people. I must be on the level, which is where I want to get. I don't really have like a proper goal in mind. I just want to see how far I can get, and if I can get to Wrestle Island, and if that was it, I'd be more than happy.
To be fair, I would kind of hope. Obviously, you're training at the school. That's got to be the first step of the laddie. Like you're at the school. The goal is obviously to get onto the main shows. The fact that you've done a run-in, for me as a fan, I say obviously I'm not second guessing Peter, but he knows what he's doing. But yeah, if they're using you as a run-in, that's got to be to get the fans' eyes kind of on you. Otherwise, they'll just be like, well, who was that guy? What was the point? So yeah, I would think eventually that will lead to a series of matches.
Hopefully so. Sean obviously trusted me and a couple of the other Temple lads to be in that position, and obviously interfere with the match. Sorry, RPD again. Please don't punch me again. Very hard punches. But just being in the ring with talent such as RPD, Sean, and then some of the other lads who I'm coming up with, it's just such a nice time. Obviously, there was the pre-show match, which had a couple of trainees in, and that was boss match, great technical wrestling, just sound ability all round. It was just like a pleasure to watch. Another person who I've known for a little bit who works at Wrestle Island that I would love to work is Lance Rivera. I feel like it would very much bounce off each other quite well. I think
that's a big. Oh, I'll say it's a big name. It's definitely one of those guys that's. I'm just waiting in the next 12 months. He's just gonna, his bookings are gonna go sideways, and he's gonna be everywhere in the next 12 months. If he's not like just at least 10 different promotions, I would be very, very surprised. I think Lance is very good.
He's got all the potential in the world, and I feel like with my flamboyancy mixed with his flamboyancy, it would make for a great match.
And that's the key word as well, flamboyancy, wrestling larger than life characters. I've kind of noticed, I don't know whether I might just be wrong, but I do think from speaking to people over the last few months, Flamboyancy is coming back. Characters are becoming. It went through a period of where people were just kind of. I know you said Sammy Blue is like yourself, turned up to 11 or maybe even 12. There's still a character. There's still something there. You know, it's and I think that's becoming more and more common now, where people are just wanting to become a character. You know, it makes having matches or planning matches possibly different. You know, you offer something that nobody else offers. You're not just a high flyer. You're not just Joe Bloggs who does X, Y, you know, this, that, and the other that everybody else does. You are Sammy Blue. You are that character. This is what you will offer to any given show down the line. You know, that sees you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, whenever I'm approaching a match, like, I'm thinking, what would Sammy Blue do in this sort of situation? How would Sammy get out of this? Like, what sort of like silliness? Because at the end of the day, like, the idea of this blue-haired guy just running around circles, trying to wrestle his way to a win, inherently is quite comedic. So I love bringing that like comedy side of wrestling out, and then like having a mix of both like speed, technical, and like comedy wrestling that pops the crowd. And hopefully whenever you watch one of the matches, it will give like an authentic like Sammy Blue experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
That's it. That's what I think the characters offer. Like you offer that just that uniqueness. I don't want. Yeah, you just in diversity just obviously covers so many fields, but the diversity of characters just makes each show feel different or feel special or makes you stand out. Kind of thing. Like I said earlier, if you was on a poster that stands out, the Sammy Blue character would poster kind of thing. I'm like, okay, that looks interesting. I want to see that guy.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like when I was coming into the industry again, like as much as it has progressed, there's still not that many people like me. So when like you do feature me on a poster or do feature me in some sort of advertising, it's eye-catching, popping, and that's what I try to do. Like the bright gear, like I change my hair every other Sunday, pretty much. Like always the blue, but there's always different elements that I'm bringing in, just to go, oh, that's nice. And obviously, it's something different on the card. Like you can have your proper wrestle matches, you can have your story-driven matches. I like to have a little bit of an in-between with a bit of spice or Semi-Blue spice.
Bit of blue. Yeah, a little bit of blue on the show. It's all right.
Never hand anyone a bit of blue.
So yeah, obviously Wrestle Island. I sort of say, man, yeah, just the talent there. You've mentioned Harley. Harley's I've seen her a few times at True Grit. Seen her matches, at Wrestle Island. Again, YouTube. She's somebody. Again, though, she's very sort of strikes me like just the hair, her appearance. She pops kind of thing. And yeah, that's a prime example of if it's done right. Just, again, put her on a poster, put you on a poster. It just draws eyes onto the product. So obviously you mentioned you've worked with Harley a couple of times. I'm not off the mark by mentioning the flamboyancy.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I've had interactions with Harley, she's always been lovely. And watching her like work, like I've watched her stuff on YouTube, and then I watched her match at Wrestle Island. Like the flamboyancy, definitely there, and she's another one of the British wrestling scene who I just see like propelling as far. Like I know she's gotten on ICW, and that's like a brilliant achievement. Like she should be like very proud of herself, because that is definitely somewhere like I would love to go if I had the opportunity. And seems like flamboyancy, as you said, is making a comeback, so hopefully I can be part of that.
There we go. Yeah, that's it. Just get the flamboyancy on the shows. I think it's just nice. It kind of makes people smile. It gives you something to appreciate, and especially when it's a face, you just automatically want to cheer them on. Just want to see, like I said, the underdog do well. So training at Wrestle Island, obviously, we've mentioned Sean. Do you get to work do they do seminars? Do they bring in like guest coaches? Do you get to pick anybody else's brains?
They do bring in guest coaches on occasion. I haven't had the chance to get up there since my travel coincides with Sean's travel up there. So I haven't been lucky enough to be a part of those classes, but I know they've brought in some great names in the past to coach some of those sessions. And hopefully one day I'll be able to be up there anyway, so I can go down and learn from some of the very best, like Joseph Connors, I think, did one recently. And he's definitely someone who I would love to be a part of a seminar of, because he has done lots in professional wrestling in the British scene, and definitely someone I want to pick the mind of.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, JC's awesome. So obviously you mentioned you travel with Sean then, so you kind of get to pick his brain on the way there, or is it just a case of like we're in the car, I'm putting the music on, we don't talk, or is it like the old school wrestling stories where you hear, obviously back in the day you heard all the wrestlers talking about being on the road and telling stories, or you'd be picking brains. Is that what you do with Sean? Who drives? Does he drive or do you drive?
Yeah, well, neither of us drive, to be fair. We always get a lift to and from the island, but he's always on about different like matches, why stuff works, and to be honest, like I can sit back and listen like for hours to the stuff that Sean says, because it's just also interesting. It's like he's got such a mind for this business, and like the little intricacies that like I've picked up on and that he talks about when it comes to like psychology. It's just so interesting, and I stick Sean in my ears for 2 hours with a podcast, and I'm good. But here from me.
I might have to I might street talk him into doing some sort of behind. I know he doesn't like to do it overly much though. When I talked to him before, he's kind of like peeping behind the curtain, but he didn't want to pull the curtain back too far, on stuff like this. But yeah, I should do like a beginner's guide with Sean only, and we can just talk about certain moves every week and just have him break everything down.
The kind of like guy he is, like obviously he's put like me and the other trainees over before himself, and that's just like the kind of coach that he is. Like he is very much supportive of us, and like I can't express my gratitude enough for the amount of help that he's given me in like the 4 or 5 months that I've worked with him. Like I've come leaps and bounds of a wrestler since I've started training with him, and it's all down to him, and he's always putting over his trainees.
His boys, as he says, my boys.
I'm very proud of his boys.
So yeah, obviously, like you said, man, we'll take it. We'll stay grounded. We'll take obviously training. Wrestle Island. If you can become a regular on a Wrestle Island show, that's the first massive step, and then that's when you're going to start to build the momentum kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I can't think of why it wouldn't happen. I'm trying to be like, but like, yeah, from what I've seen, I've tried to do a bit of research, and yeah, dude, I don't want to just keep saying overly nice things to you, because it sounds like I'm being too nice. But
give me just criticism.
Yeah, I don't see why. Like I say, within 12 months, you will not be like a benchmark or one of the pillars within like the island kind of thing. I just think you bring so much to the card that I'd be very surprised, knowing Peter, knowing how good he is at this, if he hasn't spotted it already kind of thing. And then we'll be seeing Sammy Blue t-shirts on a merch table at the island sooner rather than later.
Well, hopefully so. It would be nice to make some merch money, but that'd be a given. If I was lucky enough to be one of like the regulars at Wrestle Island, I would not take that for granted. I would try and give my all to every single match, and just recognize like how far I've come in like such a little time. Because really, I've only been like back in sort of the wrestling scene like just over a year, and the fact that like in the last year I've worked like, I think it was almost 10 different promotions, and now getting the chance to train at the island with Sean and doing run-ins on the shows, it's like I am very grateful for the opportunities that I'm getting, and hopefully this is just the beginning and I can always get more, work my way into matches and so forth.
We said near the start of the time, the bookings are coming in. So actually we've talked to Wrestle Island, man. We've talked to Blackheart. shout out, where else can we see you? These the bookings that are coming in. Where else are you, doing what you do?
So this Sunday, I'm at Old School Wrestling in Leeds, and I am wrestling the Serco for the first time, which is another guy that I'm very much looking forward to wrestling. He's obviously the True Grit champion, and I've yet to meet him, but everything that I've seen from him, he seems lovely. And hopefully we can have a banger of a match.
And Serco is, I'll one of the guys that I would vouch for in the sense of he's just legitimately an awesome human being. He's lovely. He's great. So down to earth. But it's somebody else that you could absorb stuff from because of his journey kind of thing and what he's been through and everything he's done. 4 years ago, very much on a mid-card level. And then he just turned it up. He just, screwed it. In his words, he just knuckled down. He started taking it a bit more serious and transformed his body and just absolutely, and True Grit champion. So I'd be very excited to see that match.
Yeah, props to him. And when I got told that I was going to be wrestling, I was like, oh, really? Oh, I mean, I won't say no. Like, definitely, like, very much a match that I'm excited for. And it will be a pleasure to, like, work with him, pick his brain a little, and, like, just talk to him about his journey. And because, obviously, I can learn a lot from what he's been able to accomplish and what he's been through and hopefully apply it to myself.
Yeah, I do. So, right. And Serco is one name. Who else we got coming up?
I have got, let me think. There's another Blackheart show, the 5th of November. The name of it still yet to be thing. I think there's an online poll on Facebook to decide what the name of the show is going to be. Guy Fawkes themed, of course. Not sure who I'm going to be wrestling on there, but it's always a good time. Good family-friendly wrestling night out. And hopefully I'm paired with someone good so I can make some magic.
I can't see it. Not, like I said, Blackheart are, like I said, very much on the way, but again, they know what they're doing. If they've got you on the card, I'm sure they'll get the best matchup possible to showcase both people involved, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely people on the card who would love to face, like a couple of people who I've seen at PPW recently who've been doing bits there. Hamza Masowa, Momentum, 2 guys who are regularly on the Blackheart shows who I'd love to face, and they're both lovely guys. And I think as a trio, put us in a 6-man tag. The amount of synergy there, I think, could be exciting. And I mean, the 3 of us have talked about this, and Blackheart, maybe make it happen. I don't know. Said tinkers on the brain. Let's see what we can make happen.
We'll start a poll and we'll see. We'll see. We'll get a petition going. Sort of like synergy, blue, flamboyancy, energy.
Yeah, it's they're both great lads and definitely putting the work. And I've seen them like wrestle both together and separately, and they're both absolutely phenomenal. And I think they have a great future ahead of them.
Definitely. Because obviously I think tag team wrestling at the minute is on the rise in British wrestling. I'll pick your brain about this because obviously when I talk to people who do tag teams, have you always just done the single things or have you been involved in tag matches?
So I am in a tag team with my best friend, in fact, actually, Warhog, formerly Champ Rogers. We've both been at a promotion called Non-Stop Action Wrestling, and then we've moved on to do like Blackheart and GTM and various other promotions of that nature. And that's when I worked heel for the first time in that tag match. I was versing Gung Ho Muttley and Maverick Matt Williams, 2 guys who are also very fun to work, and I'm very close with Gung Ho also. Me, Warhog, and Gung Ho have a group chat. Starship Indigo, that is sort of the team name we're running because we're all quite weird. So because we're sort of these like big characters, like obviously Warhog is like a man pig sort of thing. If you haven't been able to see him, very fun face paint, very fun guy, and pairing us both together, like you wouldn't expect it, but that's what makes it good, I think. Like the amount of variety that we have, and I think even like crowds can tell that we are very close when we wrestle.
I think that helps if you sense a tag team that kind of, like say, they've got that connection, that friendship. I think it kind of, it's hard to say, but you do spot it as a fan. You kind of pick up on the energy, the vibe, the chemistry kind of thing. I think I can't explain how you pick up on it, but you just kind of, you feel that friendship. It's like you two guys are having fun, so we're having fun.
Yeah.
Even if it's kind of thing, it makes you appreciate it. But yeah, that was my point of the tag team thing. Obviously, you probably work singles more than tag, but is there one that you prefer over the other? Do you like the feeling of that? Well, I suppose if you work in heels, you won't get that hot tag, but you get the tag team dynamic of hitting double moves and stuff like that.
I love a good hot tag. Like, honestly, my personal opinion in terms of like the best hot tag in wrestling, Dax Howard. Like the amount of fire that he gives, and I think tag team wrestling is very much like an underrated part of wrestling. Like, I feel like everyone appreciates it, but then there's not enough of it on the card, and I'd love to see more of it on the card, and hopefully with myself in it, because I absolutely love tag team wrestling. And when you see the amount of chemistry that two guys can have together, is absolutely beautiful, and that is art. Like the amount of synergy that two people can have.
I totally agree, because like when people talk about, like the top 5 matches of the year or the top 10 matches of the year, tag team matches very rarely ever get mentioned. But you can have some of the best matches I've ever seen have been tag team matches. But I'm guilty for it. I'll reel off 5 singles matches and I'll forget about the tag team matches for some reason. It's like, they don't seem to have that love or appreciation, which I think is totally wrong, because they fully deserve it. And I don't, like you said, I don't think there's anything better than seeing a hot tag or just, a tag team just destroying each other.
Yeah, well, my match of the year so far, in terms of watching, is FTR and Bullet Club Gold on Collision. The 57-minute absolute classic. I loved every minute of it. I was gripped every second. Like, tag team wrestling at its finest, and it's so good.
I fully agree. And see, at the time, I was singing its praises. I probably watched that match 2 or 3 times. But if you put me on the spot a minute ago and be like, right, give me top 5 matches of the year, totally would have it kind of thing. And then I would have kicked myself afterwards. But I'm just like, why do we not remember great tag team matches? It seems weird. But yeah, that was awesome. And obviously the FTR Briscoes trilogy.
Yeah.
Some banging matches there. I just think history is made up of great tag team matches that we very much forget about. So I just think it must be fun to be in, because being a wrestler is primarily a very solo thing. You're in there by yourself. It's your character. It's your sort of brand. You've got to get the focus on you. It just must be nice to have a tag team partner or have a friend next to you just to enjoy it with.
Yeah, it's very if I didn't have Warhawk, my current tag team partner, I don't know how far I would have gone, because he's been such a motivator for me to get better. He's been behind me since the day he met me, and he's took a liking to me, which is always very nice when you meet someone for the first time. We get along, we click. And even with people like Sean, he is very much a motivator, and having those kind of people in your corner is something that I'm very grateful for, because without them, I'd be nothing.
It just gives you that determination, that drive, just a kind word in the ear gets you to the next training class kind of thing, and then you get to the next one and the next one, and just keep getting better and better. But yeah, I think if we take anything away from this, it's obviously the awesomeness of Sammy Blue, and tag team wrestling rocks. It's just that damn good, and it deserves more love, and we should celebrate tag team wrestling a lot more.
Yeah, we should most definitely celebrate tag team wrestling. It is hands down, I think, pretty much my favorite kind of wrestling. As I can appreciate singles match as much as the next guy, but the amount of synergy that people have in duos, tandems, it's absolutely beautiful. And working together is always nice.
Even if you're working together to kick somebody else's head in, at least you're doing it with a friend. and
Yeah.
you've got that sort of a camaraderie. So dude, it has I just kind of, it's been a very cool. I've just clocked the time. I was like, crap, coming up to like 60 minutes, and it's just kind of flown by. Was aware of the time, so I kind of trying to think of something just to kind of start wrapping up in. Obviously, I would normally ask, like, wrestlers normally have like a list of people they want to work with. You've worked with Kirby, that's a massive name that could be ticked off your list. You've got Anserico coming up. You said you've had a match with Sean. I won't tick them off the list yet because I think you've got a few more matches left. I'd like to see you two guys work a story at some point. So not so much the Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels thing, but I do think you two guys could definitely work a story or a feud and have it build over months and months and months.
It would be one of my biggest honors, like, quite honestly, like, to be taught by a guy of Sean's caliber, seeing what he's done over like the past 20 years of his career, and also become so close and like just be on like the same wavelength with someone in terms of like wrestling and just other aspects of life. I feel like we could put something very magical together, and it's been an honor to share a ring with him already, but I know I can give him more than that. I know I can give him better than that. Like, there's already been parts of the match that I've picked apart. It's like, right, I can do that better, and I can do this better, and I want to give him my best because he's the one who wants it out of me.
Yeah, right. This is okay. This will be my closing kind of question. Then you mentioned there about you watch the match back. Again, that's something that kind of people differ on. Sometimes people will watch the match and critique it. Other people I've spoken to have been like, no, once I've done a match, I don't want to watch it back, or I'll focus on the next one, kind of thing. Are you overly quick? Not over, overly quick, because you kind of, I think you're going to be like me, where you could see something you've done and you'll just pick it apart. It's like, if I'm drawing, if I'm doing any artwork, I'll sit there afterwards and be like, that was shit. Why have I, but everyone else is like, oh, it's awesome. Like, it's rubbish. Are you like that with your matches then? Do you go back and watch them, rewatch them, think, right, I'll do this differently next time?
Very much so. I think I'm my own worst critic. I pick apart everything that I do, the way my body looks, like in terms of like how it's moving, how it's like how people are working it. If I'm being like fluid enough to be able to like if we're doing some chain wrestling, am I being malleable enough to work around? Like, just like little small things like that, and like just the way I'm doing stuff, like I'm picking apart in a match, and it could be the smallest thing, but it will get on my nerves the biggest amount. But I think if you're not watching your matches back and you're not sort of critiquing yourself, then you're not getting better, and you should want feedback both from like yourself and your trainer or whoever. Like, if you have the chance to show one of your matches to someone of a level of like Sean only, or someone of a level of Martin Kirby, and they like pick apart and give you feedback, absolutely take it, because that is going to make you a better wrestler very much in the long run. And I'm very grateful to be close to someone like Sean that I can just bounce like ideas off and show like my work and like see, oh, what do you think of this? What can I do differently next time? Because at the end of the day, I just want to be the best pro wrestler I can be, so I can put on the best matches, so the audience can have the best time.
And that is the best line to finish it on, because obviously that's what any wrestling show should do. It should leave the fans happy and having seen the best show that they can see that night, and make them obviously want to come back and buy tickets to the next show.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
if I'm on a match, if my aim isn't to put on like the match of the night, then like what am I even doing? If you get what I mean, like I'm always working hard to put on a show for that audience, and if I'm very much like a driven person, like I want to achieve these things, and it's like obviously I get a great ego boost out of it. Yeah, I did that thing, but it's for the people who are paying, because that's who we're working for, the people who have worked to earn the money to pay for the show to watch us, and who are ultimately paying our bills.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's a great logic. It's a great thought process. It's you are putting a show on for the fans. Obviously, the fans buy the tickets to come see you. The fans will buy the Sammy Blue merch when it starts being on the table. But yeah, dude, it's been an absolute blast. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. We've gone over the hour mark now, so I will plug your socials. I know you're new on the Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now. I don't even know what to put now. I'm like, oh, my previous tweet. I'm like, no, it's not a tweet. Is it an X? I don't know what it is. Where can people find you? Obviously on Insta or X, or let's get eyes on the prize.
So on X/Twitter, I'm at Supersonic Sammy, and then everything else, Supersonic Sammy Blue. You'll see my incredible smile pop up on your screen, and then just give it a little follow if you like. Good.
Yeah, him on a follow, show him some love, see what he's doing. Obviously, you're smart enough to promote any shows that you're on, your posters or anything. Let people know where you're going to be doing what you do. If obviously Sammy's on a show near you, go see it, buy a ticket, appreciate, enjoy, clap, or boo if he's in the tag team. But yeah, dude, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much just for talking to me, and it's been fun.
Well, thank you for having me. I very much appreciate, obviously the platform that you give not only guys like me, but my fellow trainees at the island, and sort of the platform you give for pro wrestling in general in the UK.
Oh, dude, I just think everybody deserves to know how great everybody is. So, if I can get 2 or 3 more eyes, well, not 3 eyes because that'd be weird, but 2 or 3 more pairs of eyes on the prize, I'm happy. So, obviously, thank you for watching this. Hit like, hit subscribe, share, do all the generic social media stuff, and we will see you. As mentioned earlier, I've got one of Sammy's trainees, cohorts, co-workers, Josh Garland, on next week, and I'll be picking his brain, and there's a lot more to come as well, so keep your eyes peeled. So we will see you again very, very soon.